The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
You're now about to witness the truth.
It's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. My name is Benjamin Dixon, of course. I'm your host. I guess that's no big surprise. I announce it every night like it's going to be somebody different. But I'm here, and it is Tuesday, August 30th, 2016. I want to thank you for joining us. There's so much to cover that I did not cover last night, but before we begin, I do want to take a moment to thank our latest patron, Jason D.A. Jason Del A. Became a patron overnight. And so thanks, Jason, for supporting the Benjamin Dixon Show. You will have access at the end of the show to our nightly bonus show, which is about, sometimes it's 10 minutes. Usually it's about 15. Sometimes it's about 30 minutes of extra commentary that I give on really anything from today's top headlines to some headlines that really went past, that got past the radar. Tonight, we'll be talking about the SETI Institute that discovered a radio signal from a distant planet, distant star, rather, 94 light years away. So we're going to talk about that and the political implications of the Russian array that picked it up, not telling the world for almost a year. So that's going to be in the bonus show. You guys definitely want to be a part of that, or you all rather. Don't want to be gender normative, but you all can get access to that by going to patreon.com/the BPD show and becoming a patron. I want to cover some news tonight because there's just so much to cover. So here in Massachusetts, about an hour southwest of Boston, is a city called Holliston, Massachusetts. And in that city, there was a man by the name of Gargiulio, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Gargiulio was arrested on federal charges on yesterday. He was stockpiling weapons, ammunition, materials with which he can make a bomb. Federal investigators described it as a trove of ammunition and weapons, and he was stockpiling it for the purposes of killing, quote, Muslims, police officers, and President Obama. The thing about this particular story is that he was plotting to do this for some time, and investigators had been following him for some time because of the reports that came from his friends, some family members, and a restraining order. So Gargiulio had a restraining order which demanded that he turn over all of his weapons and all of his ammunition to the local police station there. The restraining order had nothing to do with the reason he was arrested. However, not only did he violate the restraining order, he also did not have a license to own or use a weapon in the state of Massachusetts. He was commenting or alleged to have commented to friends that he was upset that he was not able to kill the president while he was in Martha's Vineyard golfing on his most recent vacation. Some of his friends described him as being about to snap, and he wanted to lock the doors on a local mosque. Not one in specific, but he just said he wanted to lock the door on a local mosque to set it on fire and kill everyone on the inside. He faces up to 10 years in prison and a fine up to $250,000. And you never really know who your neighbor is, but this was right around the corner from the city of Boston. In other news, Donald Trump, Mr. Amnesty himself, Donald Trump has been found, or has been accused, rather, of employing illegal foreign workers for his modeling agency, Trump Model Management, And in New York, the Mothers Jones actually reported on this, and it's some great reporting over there at Mothers Jones that they're doing. So they spoke with several former models from the agency who all provided financial documentation, receipts, and their personal accounts of how they were used, and not only used, but their living standard was subpar. They were young and they were illegal, and because of their status, Donald Trump's agency took advantage of them. One of the stories came out from one of the models named Rachel Blas, stated that it was a type of slavery in that, and we're gonna forgive her for the reference to slavery. It's more like sharecropping, but that's neither here nor there, in the sense that they were charged exorbitant prices for rent, and they came out of the deal broke. Many of them came out of the deal broke, but Donald Trump owns 85% of the share of this company. And according to his his May financial reporting, he made over $2 million off the Trump modeling management alone. So this is Donald Trump receiving a tremendous amount of windfall profits from a company that employed illegal workers. They were illegal in the sense that they were here on tourist visas, and while you're here on a tourist visa, you are not allowed to work. There is a specific work visa that you can get, and one of the models said that she worked for Saudi work. And it became almost the norm that you had to show your value before their lawyers would apply for you a work visa. Other models stated that they never received a visa ever. So the agency was founded in 1999, and this is beyond ironic because Donald Trump, number one, he's built his entire platform off of this 2016 version of Donald Trump has built his entire platform off of putting up a wall to stop foreign workers from coming and taking the jobs of poor Americans. Right. And he has built a base that is definitely tapping into the nativism and xenophobia. But the irony of it is that perhaps Donald Trump just doesn't see this as illegal, undocumented workers. Right. Maybe because of the glitz and the glamour that they presented to him, because I'm sure they never went to Donald Trump looking like the circumstances in which they described living. One of the reports was that they had over 8 people in a 2-bedroom apartment stacked on top of each other, paying almost $2,000 a month for a unit that back in 2004 rented for like $2,000 a month for the entire unit. And the 8 women, the 8 models were paying somewhere between $1,600 and $2,000 a month. One report said that one account rather stated that she was sleeping and felt water dripping on her, and she wondered why she was getting wet. Was it raining? And she looked out the window, and there was a homeless man who was urinating right beside her apartment and leaking through the window. So while Donald Trump may have seen the women, the models, in their glamorous state, according to them, they called it a form of slavery and most certainly sweatshops. And I said that to say this, that perhaps Donald Trump just doesn't see the glamorous life as undocumented workers, but yet and still he employed undocumented workers, according to a report from Mother Jones, according to the financial documents that Mother Jones obtained, and the treatment of the models. They are a part of, at least some of them are a part of a class action lawsuit against several modeling agencies that did include Donald Trump's agency. So the irony is he's built his entire platform this year's campaign off of nativism, xenophobia, and building a wall to keep out undocumented workers. And here Donald Trump himself has been employing through his Trump modeling agency undocumented workers. Yet and still, I don't believe anyone is who supports Donald Trump at this point is going to see the dissonance or see the hypocrisy. And even if they see it, I don't know if at this point, if you're supporting Trump, if you would even care. But I think that's the deepest problem of them all, is the fact that you can look at Donald Trump and still expect him to be something that he's clearly not. He's clearly not a protectionist. He's clearly not a person who is going to actually obey laws. He's clearly not a person who's going to be true to his word. And out of every side of his mouth, he talks out of every side of his neck. And this is just another example of Donald Trump. While we're talking about Donald Trump, let me cover one other interesting story on Donald Trump, and then I want to talk about some other news. So Donald Trump has stated that he was going to get 95% of the black vote. This was his goal. By 2020, he wants to get 95% of the black vote. The problem with that is, according to the public policy polling, most recent survey from August 23rd to August 26th, Donald Trump has quite the hurdle to overcome. His favorable and unfavorable ratings, his favorables are at 0% amongst African Americans. 97% of African Americans view Donald Trump unfavorably, and 3% are undecided. In addition to the favorables and unfavorables amongst African Americans, Donald Trump has found himself to be less appealing to black voters than several items. And, well, we'll go through it and then we'll talk about the nature of the survey itself. But I thought it was worth mentioning. So Donald Trump is less popular than personal injury lawyers in the black community. According to the PPP recent data, Donald Trump is less popular than spam emails, according to the most recent amongst the black community. According to the most recent PPP data, Donald Trump is less popular than bed bugs amongst the black community, according to the most recent data. And the one that was the most striking is Donald Trump is less popular amongst black people than the bubonic plague. Now, a couple of things. There was a margin of error of plus or minus 3.3%. Yeah, okay. Here's the thing. When this type of polling is done, it's a game. And, it's a fun game because we just are saying how much we dislike Donald Trump. And I get it. I say it on a regular basis, what I would refer to him as if he became president. But the truth of the matter is, once you get into this cycle of questioning during a survey, there's really no depths that you can't go and get people to answer in the affirmative or to answer the way that you're leading, right? The problem with this type of survey is that people's brains automatically click and you realize, oh, this is fun. Let's see how much I really can say I don't like somebody. And so they could have gone down the list and say, which one do you like more? Do you like the bubonic plague more or Donald Trump? After I've talked about I like bed lice more than Donald Trump, then of course I'm just going to go along with the game and say I like the bubonic plague more than Donald Trump. In reality, there's not a single person in the world who would prefer the bubonic plague over President Trump. That's just a ridiculous question, which kind of undermines the validity of polling in the first place. There are some complaints about the PPP, particularly because they drive questions. They ask questions that are more of a clickbait style of polling. And the reason I'm reporting on it, because it is funny, all right? It is funny to think that black people think so lowly of Donald Trump. I mean, hell, like the part that was the only legitimate part might have been the favorable, unfavorable ratings, right? But also the PPP is horribly notorious for being leaning to the left or leaning towards liberals. But once you get in that train of thought, you're going to answer whatever the next question is. Do you like Donald Trump more than bed bugs? No, I like bed bugs more. Do you like Donald Trump more than spam? No, I like spam more. Do you like Donald Trump more than the bubonic plague? Yeah, I'd rather a good case of the bubonic plague. It's a game. You keep going. Do you like Donald Trump more than Lucifer? Nah, man, I think I'll become a Satanist I'm converting this year. Yeah, I definitely take Satan over. And you're asking black people this, and as religious as we are, the type of questions inevitably will lead people to saying that they would prefer Lucifer over Donald Trump. So take it with a grain of salt. Some black people are going to vote for Donald Trump, but nowhere near the 95% that he boasted that he would get by 2020. All right. In more relevant and serious news, ISIS, there have been discovered 72 mass graves, and those graves have been attributed to ISIS. According to the Associated Press, evidence, and they have evidence of and mapped 72 mass graves created by ISIS both in Syria and Iraq. And this occurred in territory controlled by the group. These mass graves were often crudely made with little regard taken in order to hide the sites. In other words, the sites were hastily made, and some of the bodies were not even fully covered. Part of the way they verify the sites is because ISIS has taken no steps to try to conceal it. In fact, this has become a part of their propaganda. And so in addition to on the ground witnesses, people who could verify it in Iraq, the people doing the research could not get into Syria, yet they were able to connect with people in Syria who could verify locations, and using satellite imagery, they were able to verify 72 mass graves. In some graves, they have as few as a few hundred bodies, and some graves they have a few thousand bodies. One of the graves in Iraq represents a group of Iraqi soldiers who were all killed. They were made to lie down in the dirt, and they were all shot while they laid face down in the dirt, and a mass grave was created from that. ISIS has been... This is one of the more ruthless realities of ISIS. They have been specifically targeting groups in addition to the people with which they are engaged in combat. For example, you remember the 2014 incident with the Yazidis. They were targeted in August of 2014, where they were not only surrounded, they were being starved out, and as people would leave, ISIS would kill them in mass numbers, and then ISIS would encroach on them more, killing them even more. And their wholesale slaughter, that was what brought, in a lot of ways, America back into Iraq. Because of the appeal made directly to President Obama by representatives of and the Yazidis, saying this large-scale massacre is happening as we speak by ISIS. And this is just one of the many groups that ISIS has targeted in this fashion. President Obama ordered an airstrike, which essentially liberated the Yazidis back in 2014. Many other groups and all those who opposed the Islamic State make up the remainder of the dead. So there's a combination of nationalities, combination of political ideologies. Just anyone who ISIS opposed has found themselves on the receiving end of their brutality, and over 72 mass graves have been discovered with bodies just completely disregarded as nothing more than ISIS's rubbish and thrown away. Many of these bodies, because of the way the bodies were disposed of, would never, according to one report, will never be able to be identified. And in fact, the total number in these graves may actually be unknown, or the presence of other graves makes it impossible for us to know exactly how many people have been killed in this fashion. The estimates are between 10 to 15,000 people who have likely been killed at the hands of ISIS. All right. In other less very depressing and very one small piece of commentary there. I don't know. And this is no slight to the people particularly the Iraqi soldiers who were killed face down in the dirt. But every time I hear that type of story, man, it just strikes a nerve with me. I would like to think that under no circumstances would I allow myself to go out knees down, face in the dirt. It's like you're gonna have to get me on the go. You're gonna have to kill me on the go, and not all that